Hey everyone, welcome back to the Agenda Now channel. Today, I'm diving into one of the most explosive moments in Washington, Senator Kennedy's brutal takedown of the latest U.S. budget cuts. If you missed it, buckle up, because this is where politics gets spicy. Picture this. Kennedy looks straight at the officials and just lets loose. Your budget is down 23%. That's $2 billion. Gone. He's not just talking about loose change. That's a body blow to the Army Corps of Engineers, the folks keeping our waterways and flood defenses running. And it gets even uglier. Mississippi River projects, slashed by 29%. Operations and maintenance, down 28%. Then Kennedy drops a line that's pure gold. In 2 to 3 trillion galaxies in the universe, no Congress would ever approve this budget. Not only is that the most cosmic shade I've ever heard, but it's also a straight-up political mic drop. Kennedy isn't just mad about the cuts, he's furious about the money that's being ignored. Billions of taxpayer dollars are just sitting in the Inland Waterways Trust Fund, totally untouched. The Harbor Maintenance Trust Fund, barely tapped, falling almost $2 billion short of what Congress actually promised. So while critical projects are begging for funding, piles of cash are gathering dust. Make that make sense. And if you're into these raw, no-filter political breakdowns, hit that subscribe button now. I've got plenty more truth bombs coming your way. Back to Kennedy, he's not done. He calls out Washington gridlock, and yeah, he names names. Senator Schumer blocked the 12 bipartisan funding bills from even getting a vote last year. Kennedy calls himself a paranoid optimist, but you can feel the frustration. He's hoping for the best, but he's seen this movie before. Then, he lands the knockout punch, contrasting the last 2 presidents. Under Biden, it was all about who should pay more taxes. Under Trump, suddenly, it's what the hell happened to the money. That's not just clever, it's a question every taxpayer should be asking right now. But here's the twist. Kennedy actually gives props to the Army Corps of Engineers. Their work is vital, bipartisan, and way underappreciated. But 23 to 30% cuts? That's just not going to fly. He demands, get your cost estimates right, stop the endless delays, and no more squillions of dollars wasted on overruns. His words are harsh, but let's be real, they hit home. In the private sector, you'd be out of business for this kind of mess. To wrap it all up, Kennedy introduces the top brass on the hot seat. Acting Secretary D. Lee Forsman, Lieutenant General Butch Graham, and Assistant Secretary Scott Cameron. He challenges them to step up, fix the mess, rebuild trust, get projects done on time, and actually show us where the money's going. So what do you think? Are these budget cuts smart or a recipe for disaster? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm reading all of them. And if you care about where your money, your infrastructure, and your future are headed, subscribe and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching Agenda Now. I'll catch you in the next one.
Put Senator Murray down as doubtful, gentlemen, about your budget. I look at your budget, a decrease of 23%. That's $2 billion from fiscal year 25 enacted. A reduction in funding for the Mississippi River and tributaries account of 29%. That's $106 million. A reduction in funding for the operation and maintenance account of 28%, $1.6 billion. The budget doesn't propose any use, none, of the Inland Waterways Trust Fund receipts, and proposes to use only $1.7 billion from the Harbor Maintenance Trust Fund. That's about $1.7 billion dollars less than the congressional target. I was reading the other night, I don't remember the exact figures, but scientists estimate that there are 2 to 3 trillion galaxies in the universe. And in not a single one of those galaxies is this Congress or any Congress likely to approve this budget. I mean, that's just a fact. Now, I understand the way it works, that you gentlemen didn't write this budget. Hopefully you had input, but You didn't write it. It came from OMB. And I also understand that Congress has never accepted a president's budget, any president's budget, and just enacted it without changes. That's never happened in the history of ever. So I get all that. But having said that, this is obviously not acceptable, and I hope we can talk about that frankly today. I don't know what's going to happen this year in terms of a budget. I'm an optimist, but I am a paranoid optimist. Last year, I watched Senator Murray and Senator Collins work really, really hard to put together 12 bills. I watched the entire Appropriations Committee work very, very hard to approve those bills. And a lot of us had to, on both sides of the aisle, had to swallow things that we almost choked on. But we wanted to put together a budget because that's our first job. I know you hear a lot about the Senate being in the personnel business, and we are, but really our job is to put together a budget. And we did. And my friend Senator Schumer refused to bring any of those bills to the floor. Not one. None. Zero. My goal was to see the bills come to the floor and then have an open amendment process where colleagues of mine, both on and off the Appropriations Committee, could weigh in. But Senator Schumer chose not to. That's just a fact. I don't know what's going to happen this year. Under President Biden, I want to try to be as impartial as I can be in making this statement, but I think it's accurate. Under President Biden, and presidents set the tone in Washington. Under President Biden, the general discussion was who needs to pay more in taxes. Okay. Under President Trump, it's clear to me at this juncture that the discussion has changed. The discussion is now, what the hell happened to the money? And that's a healthy discussion to have. But when it comes to the Corps of Engineers, and before I get there, and that leads me to believe that we may not have a budget this year. I just don't know if we can come together on it. It's always a challenge, but it's clear to me that at least on my side of the aisle, we are expecting to reduce the amount of spending strategically, but reduce it. And I know some of my friends in the Senate are going to have a problem with that, but that's the reality. Now, when it comes to the Corps of Engineers, that is slightly different because there is bipartisan support for the important work that you do. It doesn't mean that we can't find savings, and it doesn't mean that we shouldn't make changes, and we're going to talk about that today. But a 23% decrease, I think Senator Murray, by her calculations, it might be a 30%. That's just not acceptable. So help us work through this and come up with a plan that looks like somebody designed it on purpose, which is not this one. Let me make one other comment, and then I want to hear from you gentlemen. Look, I know you have a tough job. I get that. Every senator, every congressperson wants their projects, and they want them first, and they want them yesterday. I get that. And you have finite resources, we all do. And you have a lot of smart people working at your agency, but you could use more. I get all of that. So I don't want to, I'm spending a few minutes on this because I appreciate the job that you do. I do. But we've got to do better. Our estimates on the cost of projects are just too wide of the mark. I mean, I could give you, I'm not going to do it, but I could give you example after example after example. And we're not talking 10% off or 20% off or 30% off. We're talking squillions of dollars off. I understand inflation, but it doesn't account for this. We also have to figure out a way, you do frankly, to bring these projects in on time, or at least closer to the estimated time. If you did in the private sector in terms of your delays and your, I'll say our cost overruns, if you did that in the private sector, you would be out of business. Nobody would hire you. And the penalties from not completing the project on time would put you out of business. We just got to do better. It's just that simple. And I hope today you'll talk about how you're planning on doing that. Let's start with us today. I guess I should introduce our colleagues who are here today. Acting Secretary D. Lee Forsgren. He was appointed Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Army Civil Works on March 31st. Welcome. Lieutenant General Williams H. Butch Graham, Jr. You're the 56th Chief of Engineers and Commanding General of the United States Army Corps of Engineers. You assumed your duties on September 13th of 2024. Welcome. Acting Assistant Secretary for Water and Science, Scott Cameron. Secretary Cameron has been in this role since January 21st. We welcome all of you. The floor is yours. Why don't we start with Secretary Forsgren.